As we speak about those picks and bans, speak of the devil, and they shall appear. JDG, Invictus Gaming at Game 2. Invictus Gaming have typically been Invictus Giant Slayers. They have beaten all of our World's representatives from last year between summer and spring this year. They got kind of slapped around in mid and late game, though, by JDG.
Just looking around, I can't see any team on the screen. I thought you said being called for the devil and it appeared. What is this?
You know, funnily enough, there's actually a whole line of those little
there
demon
is
skins.
true.
There's Fizz as well. That one's terrifying because you know that Fizz, when he throws out the ultimate, ends up having the giant T-mode.
That is horrifying, actually.
It is
very alarming.
Anyway, JDG, on the blue side, you can see that IG banned away Smolder on blue and red side now. Varus still available, Callista still available. So there's a lot of lane dominant champions which you don't typically want to give against Ruler and Missing on the table.
Nope. And of course the Senna stays up so far. Interesting that they've gone for the early Nidalee ban here on this up. It also means, are you going to be forced into banning the Senna here as well? Might well be, otherwise that might be the first pick instead of the Shin Sao. So Senna's up, could decide to lock that in early here for someone like Ruler. Put a fair amount of time into it, or you could still look towards those lane dominant options.
With Varus still, I don't think you play Senna into Varus. That's the thing. If that's available, you just feel kind of crap about it. Now, we do have, of course, big mid lane champion shift from game 1. Karma and Nico, very, very strong picks for early lane, and then into your later game 2, particularly post 1 item. Yagao, gonna go towards the Nico. That does somewhat dissuade Ahri because you get bossed around in lane a little too much for Ahri to really play around that. You can still play it, just feels a little bit meh. And on that side, and with the Callista being hovered, that's a likely lock-in for Arn and Wink. I think Callista has been, again, top of the tree for so much this year. It's basically permanently been banned in the LPL. And what that does mean is that, again, you can't play Senna lanes into the Callista because you put a tank in front of the Callista and they disappear under a hail of spears.
Yep, that's the kind of plan. Of course, be a little bit wary because Nico is one of the better options into Callista because you have to play alarmingly close range to the Nico ultimate. Of course, if you get caught out with a rocket belt or a flash, Callista can be quite swiftly dispatched. That's why Nico has been a bit more of a threat this year. Of course, he has been since the rework in a lot of ways, but the Ahri locked in regardless for Crying. Had a good early game on the champion at least.
Yeah, and Yagao's early lane has not been that dominant, and I think that actually changes the way you draft against him because, yeah, if you're up against, your Knights, or of course over in the LCK, it's been absolutely hellish trying to play against some of the Nikos and the Anus and the Karmas there. Like your Showmakers, your Chobies and your Fakers. They just brutalize the laning phase too hard. So JDG, they have that Nico who'll be very strong early on and then into mid game as well. The Varus as well, one of the most dominant early game champions, can deal with the Callista very well. Now IG have a problem of, if they don't lock in frontline, this poke Varus can really deal with their composition, and particularly if you build up something like an Edge of Night as well, Ahri can really struggle to, one, reach the champion, and then actually get kills onto him after that point too. So I wonder if YSKM actually has to lock in something like a Cassante on 3 to stop the poke Varus coming through.
Yeah, and Kanabi locking in the early Lee Sin here, especially with the Shin Sao already banned. He wants that early brawling option on that in the jungle. Of course, very famously an excellent Lee Sin, so it does make some sense, but of course that locked in. Does leave the Renata up and available, which of course is a very common and powerful pairing with the Callista, and also is a takeaway from the Varus.
No, this is the problem, where you have a lot of valuable picks. You're thinking, well, you kind of need to go towards the lane duo for Callista just to capitalize on Callista being Callista. But this means that you're likely going to be losing some of your frontline options into the second part of the draft. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw something like a Vi as well being locked in for Lien. He's been a very strong champion of that one too. So we'll see whether he can pick that one up. And yeah, I think some of the frontline options for YSKM, maybe flip the top lane matchup a little, take it away from Sheer, lock it in for YSKM, who has been prioritizing a lot of the Cassante this split.
Has done exactly that, and can be a person here who, if it's left open, could blind pick it on 4. Like you are on red, so you can look for the Luke Skywalker pick, red 5, standing by. And of course into Sheer, who will likely be forced, will be forced to blind pick unless some weird shenanigans happen with Flex to make it awkward to read. Could give YSKM that option. That's a very potent thing to do, especially considering you know what you're playing into in the jungle front already. So you might be okay just picking jungle on 4 and leaving that counter pick up for top side.
Would make some sense. And with a Cassante gone now, you have less good options in terms of frontlining towards the top lane anyway. That's like your big frontline blind pick that at least can survive most matchups and then kind of walk away with it. Stuff like the Udyr has fallen off a little bit. And we can see that IG, they're respecting the flex of this Neeko, as we've talked about flex picks already, and they're respecting both the mid and the support options, which could potentially throw a wrench in their plans. The Annie could have countered that Ahri, and then of course the Heimerdinger Varus very, very nasty in the bot lane laning phase as well.
Really obnoxious into the Kalista and Renata in particular, who don't really have easy ways of dealing with the turrets in a way that is safe compared to, say, I think it's Fortune, whether you can just auto-queue and drop some of those turrets a bit easier. I want to look into something in Dunkel's Lane. Famously an excellent grave. Volibear, of course, also been given some buffs, so these hovers are quite fun to see, but do make some sense. Looks like it's locked. That's the Volibear in for the jungle.
Yeah, it's just a great single target lockdown pick where you just stun someone in place where, the Renata, the Ahri, and the Kalista can all follow up from quite long range, throwing out different skill shots in their ultimates. Now the question is, JDG, what are they going to capitalize with their flex of this Neeko? We saw DCG in the PCS be flexing this around an awful lot in the karma for them against Detonation Focus because they knocked out they knocked out the GOAT Japanese team from the PCS playoffs. We will not be seeing that MSI and news from other areas of the world, but they were using the karma and the Neeko as double flexes, and they could actually switch them both into mid lane and support depending on what they wanted there. And it feels like some of the best teams, because of their scrim schedules as well, can pick up a lot of this information from top teams around different regions in the same area of the world.
Worth noting, I suppose there is a world where the Volibear ends up top. It's been haunting solo queue a little bit, even if pro play. It's largely been the jungle. With Renekton locked in, does now give YSKM lane the opportunity to figure out what they want to do. Wukong's being hovered. We have seen Wukong top lane even, so there is a world where the Volibear goes top. Even there's a world where the Wukong goes top. Or so there's still a load of wildness happening.
It's that one meme. It's like you have no idea how little that narrows it down. Anyway, now it finally does. Viego Mortensen once again bringing us to the wonderful world of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy into the jungle, Philien. It's once again Reset City, this time technically with stuff like the bailout as well. And this time you don't have the bailout to stop the Ahri and the Viego popping off.
And it is going to be the Volibear moved towards that top lane. Did get a lot of buffs in recent weeks, so could prove pretty dangerous. And obviously, it's very good at diving. So when you've already got the Viego and the Ahri helping that out, of course, Kalista able to get the shove. Volibear's ability to just ohm wrecker a turret is very potent.
It is, and Volibear was always good into Renekton. You remember back to 2020, season 10? Well, even before that, think about season 8 when Bwipo used it to get to that world finals? I think it was season 10 mainly, I remember, in top
22 when we were casting in the NLC a lot as well.
Yeah, true. It's been, well, that was mainly in jungle again at that point, that's the thing.
So a bit of it top.
That's the thing though, when it was dominant in top lane, it really was about 2010. If you think, I'm thinking about like the Bwipo kind of era when it was that Volibear Renekton, because of Volibear's mixed damage, makes him very potent in top lane, because you can't itemize him against him nearly as effectively, and in this game as well, he can go unstoppable, jump through a Varus ultimate or a Neeko, and kind of counter engage at the same time. So we'll see if that comes to be in this top side.
Remind me again, what were the buffs that came through for Volibear that's kind of pushed him back into the limelight a little bit here? Because obviously, for a little while, fell away from being very high priority in pro play across a number of splits, and eventually got toned down. Was of course right up there, the likes of the Xin Saos and the Lee Sins of the world in terms of the early jungle prior. Back towards that kind of flexibility options, and I'm just trying to remember exactly what it was that brought him back in. Of course, onto Rift we go. JDG's skybox there, make it real. Ironically there in digital, in reality, forced away with a level 1 flash. His ruler as the handshake from Wink causes that summoner spell to be popped early on.
So a lot of the buffs were just kind of so his Q buffs were pretty big on 14.4, so he gets some extra like move speed when he's pressing that Q and he maxes it out, which just means it's easier to gap close, and also he's got some so his E, the Sky Splitter, that's lost a second on its cooldown, which is only one. It has the same cooldown at all ranks as well, so that's nice. That's a good laning phase thing. And then also his ultimate as well got some reductions to its cooldown, and then also a second increase at each rank to its tower disable.
Oh, that's pretty huge.
All of that's kind of nice. So
nice laning stuff, basically.
So there's a lot of laning stuff, and then some. Well, it's a bit of everything. I think particularly the Q movement speed buff is very good for jungle, but I think the cooldown. I mean, it's always good in lane anyway. But then obviously the cooldown on the E, because if you're using it on cooldown to poke people out, very, very potent. It's one of the reasons why we used to see Doran's ring start for Volibear, so you can just keep getting that mana sustain, just keep pinging people with it in lane.
It gives you the shield as well, so you are brawling against someone like Renekton. If you just have the shield up more regularly, yes, Renekton can break it with the empowered W, but that can always be a bit tricky. Both junglers starting on their red buffs mean that kind of have inverted jungle clears from both sides. Wink hit with the handshake at level 1, missing with the ignite thrown down, with Ruler already missing the flash. Big trade for Invictus Gaming in the spot lane.
We already kind of talked about how it really has been between these two bot lanes. They've done away with the Senna. It's too much about this laning phase, kind of brutalization style. Last game, it wasn't really about the 2v2. Both of the teams playing quite respectfully. Ruler and Missing, they were the ones that kind of knew they were going to have jungle against them most of the time. Just flipping back to the other side of the map, this is YSKM's first ever Volibear game. He's never played it before. Of course, he's kind of come around in the era after Volibear had left top lane because he was so obnoxious for so many years, folks. This guy would just run at you and you think, this is kind of rough. So, interesting to see if we can add this to his active champion pool. Famously a player that doesn't necessarily have the biggest champion pool. He's worked on that quite a lot, and going towards bot side though to try and punish Ruler and Missing.
Skipped his blue side quadrant. Ruler no flash, but does have the cleanse. This is very punishable. Lane could make a lot of damage happen here.
Kanavi's nowhere close, so that would have been very dangerous. But they get themselves the wave crash. Lucky timing for them. And now IG, I guess they're looking to see if they can stop some recalls. I don't think they'll be able to.
They know the recall's happening at least. So this will be an easy shove on in. Ruler decides to not back where they were, and it'll be Arn and Wink getting the early shove and the crash. And fourth, Ruler and Missing to take this one as is.
And you can really see, again, the threat in which these early junglers have towards bot side. I mean, imagine if this was a Lilia or something instead. They're just going to walk you, nothing really they can do. When you've got champions like the Lee Sin and the Viego, especially against, effectively, 3 immobile champions in bot side, any kind of early champion which spikes at level 3 and has that kind of mobility and ability to kind of get some good damage out is really impacting the bot lane meta right now, and that's why we're seeing, particularly in the LPL, so many bot side 3v3 champions. So I guess we are seeing a lot of the carries too, but once you see stuff like the Kalista and the Varus, stuff like the Lee Sin and the Viego, just because they can flip their laning phase can be very, very important. The first top lane Volibear since 2021. There you go.
Ali's on V5 back in the day doing that one. So it's been a couple years. Of course, the buffs have now come on through. And now Kanavi, a long way away from that Volibear. Which the last time we've really seen Volibear was in the jungle role. So kind of migrate a little bit. We've seen that a lot between top and jungle of late.
Do you think that bears are being forced to migrate due to climate change?
Yeah, the top lane is melting.
The top lane is melting. Oh, I don't know what I expected. That's great. I love that. Can you imagine us doing like a BBC article? And tonight on BBC News, we have a great story from the environmentalists where bears are migrating from the top lane, from the jungle into the top lane as they seek higher ground to get away from the flooded jungles.
Oh boy.
Oh god. I don't have anything more than that. Sorry, that's where it's peaked out.
Increasingly narrow win rates on Howling Abyss. Volibears have been found migrating to Summoner's Rift top lane of late.
One of my favorite pieces of TV ever was a documentary where there were some scientists out in the North Pole trying to see how polar bears hunted to try and, because what polar bears were doing was they were kind of sticking their head out of ice holes, dipping down into the water to get closer to their target without going above kind of the ice, and then popping up closer to them. And then while they were filming this, they realized that actually the bear was doing it to them and not the seals that they were watching, so they were getting hunted by the polar bear themselves. Those creatures are terrifying, by the way.
Horrible, as Yagao is on the wrong end of a terrifying encounter with the Ruined King. Ain't that a nasty ghost story? Slightly different from polar bears as it stands, as Missing in the form of a Nico, actually doing a fair amount of work. The dragon is taken, but the fight can continue on. Now coming on over, crying pretty low, but does have a Bale on top of them. Lands the charm, and that means there's no Ray out for Missing, who gets hit with that one. And it is in fact Kanavi who goes down. Leon steals that body and forced a flash out of Yagao. Dragon to JDG, but Summoner advantage and the first blood going to Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, and JDG, they were the ones filming IG hunting the dragon, but they were hunting them instead. So IG get themselves kill on the board, kill to Cryon before sadly could get his first back in, so he couldn't get himself anything like the Dark Seal to snowball off of that one, but still. I think Cryon really showing that he's kind of winning the early laning phase over stuff like Yagao. Typically, Ahri really suffers in the early laning phase versus Karma. Yagao's not really been able to do much of that. As we see, IG going towards top side. They're not even going to get themselves the full... Oh, Wink flashing in. We'll stop that.
Oh,
Oh my
messed
god!
up! Ruler just blows him up with a WQ, and now Arn's in danger. We'll get one back, but it's a 2 kills onto Ruler, who's just laughing his way to the bag.
Oh, Wink was too low, and you're absolutely right. It was the Q coming through. It wasn't even the W. You can see actually in the bottom left of your screen, it didn't even go through. The amount of damage there. I mean,
No
Wink...
way.
The fact that he died without Ruler having to use that W, that's even more insane to me. I guess Wink just flashed into an arrow with 3 stacks on him. That's a huge mistake, because now suddenly, this fist fight bot lane, which we know the Varus and the Callista can be, has just ceded 2 kills over. So a poke Varus in a composition which it feels like you can do a lot of work in.
Oh, what a disaster. I've got to assume the bailout wasn't available, or it would have been put forwards onto it. That is a complete mess. Let's have a look again. Wink sees the angle, gonna flash on forward, does get the handshake, but Ruler just murders him.
Yeah, he just murderizes him. As, yeah, Renata, that one's gonna hurt. That one's gonna take a little bit of reassessing the market to see if he can come back from that one. They will never financially recover from this.
Yeah, I think Renata finds Donata and decides that... That's a bad pun, I apologize to my Spanish friends out there. That's like, when you start punning in other languages, you know you've hit a particular low point.
Yeah, that one is... I don't have anything else to do, that one. No lo sé. Lo siento, our viewers who do understand a little bit more of Spanish there. I used to learn some of it, but then I only knew like some really kind of like joke phrases after that point.
They were very entertaining though.
They were. What is more entertaining is potentially mid-jungle 2v2. Can obviously spot it out. Crying going in.
We'll find Kanavi in the bush and immediately decides perhaps the discretion is the better part of valor. And the ultimate is popped for little gain. I appreciate the look in, but Kanavi being there at that point made Cry feel a little bit nervous.
Tier 2 boots and Karma Shield's really hard to actually land a lot of clutch skill shots onto Karma. It's one of the reasons why really good players are still making use of Karma, despite the fact that there's quite a lot of nerfs. Liam, not for the first time, being forced off of some camps. He only managed to get himself one of the early grubs as well. And of course, remember that, well, at least the grubs, the first one you take does give you double XP, so he gets something up in that regard too. He really wants to try and get into this game. Maybe you can go towards Ruler and missing again.
Right, getting on down here, the Harrow Path's available, Face Call goes forward, Wink now going forward to get the handshake in onto Ruler, who has nothing to say about this one at all. Goes down, this time it's clean, this time both kills are secured by Invictus Gaming. No response.
JDG did not have the vision to be pushing up like that. Look, no wards into the enemy jungle. They did have some kind of, I guess, coincidental information that, of course, he wasn't in the top side of his jungle because Kanavi was just, you know, invading there himself. But big mistake from Ruler and Missing for who, not for the first time, have been kind of shut down through this bot side of the map. I remember back to the FPX series, it happened there too. And as you said, even at the start of the series, one of the ways you can deal with JDG is just by putting pressure bot side and shutting down Ruler and Missing. This time it's all too easy, though. This is not that complicated.
No.
You know, Kanavi's into the enemy jungle. You know that Lien is not there. You've just taken his topside camps. So, by process elimination, he is on bot side, and he is turning up in your lane and killing you.
Credit over to Leon, who is forced off with Raptors and immediately pivots into finding that bot side play. That's very good. Heads up thinking and quick adjustment. They get 14,000 kills for Invictus Gaming here as well with that one. What an insane milestone to hit.
I think JDG just the other day hit 9,000 kills as well. Some of these organizations have been around for an awful long time. IG, of course, been around since the very early days, alongside the likes of your EDG and Royal Club as well. Team W8 technically as well, picking up the mantle from Team World Elite. I don't know whether they consider that the same kind of thing with the rebrand coming in from Team World Elite to World E, but either way, IG, what a history they've had.
Reminds me a little bit of the banners they had in the LoL Park in LCK Arena. Yeah. You see some of these newer orgs with empty banners, and then the likes of T1 with their banners laden with accolades over the years. How many World Championships, how many LCK Championships, how many OGN Championships even on there. They've been going for a little while. JDG, though, might be on the wrong end of another little play.
IG, they had themselves an entrance into the river first. JDG, they don't really have vision, so they need to start grouping up and gaining that one. Yagao pushing in mid lane, and you'll be able to... How the hell did you miss that? I mean, Yagao. By the way, there was a funny clip earlier in the year where Yagao misses an ult Q, and the Chinese caster said, it's actually harder to miss it than it is to hit it. This thing is... In fact, I remember one of my all-time favorite casting moments was of Huhi playing... Missing has got level 6, need to be careful. I think it was Huhi saying this, wow, it makes it look easy to miss. Back in NALCS. I think that was when he was on CLG in Season 5, a long time ago now.
I'm with the ultimate lane here as well. This looks like they want to play for it. Over the wall they go. Kanavi will immediately safeguard away. Big charm onto Wink. Sorry, it's a root onto Wink because I get the wrong ability name. But they're still going to secure that dragon. No way to come over and contest that, even with the Kalista on their side. JDG stacking in the face of the lane priority is bad news for Invictus Gaming.
And now, well, yes, you've gotten 2 early dragons against a Kalista of all things, who just outside of the lane priority you mentioned, also just has the red too. Right. Kalista is always expected to get early stacks of dragon. Not in this case though, and it is now a Hex Tech Rift. And it's going to be harder to stop people rotating over to dragon in time. It's going to be a very powerful soul should JDG claim that as well. So IG felt like early game of game 1 was going in their favor, especially after they got themselves the early cash-in for the Draven. Not nearly the same in this game. This one is now all warning signals saying, guys, this is a problem. We cannot give over this many objectives. At least they're going to claim themselves second round of grubs, it looks like, uncontested.
Should at least get one more to deny the 5 break point at the very least. And credit over to Sheer actually briefly as well. It has just dropped off, but had picked up a bounty purely from the farm advantage he'd gotten in lane for a little while there. Of course, has just had to be forced off the wave, and that has kind of now disappeared briefly. And Leanne actually now in a dangerous position. Heartbreaker's over the wall and just about survives. But JDG looking significantly more coordinated in the early game than they did in the last one.
And what this also means is that Kanavi gets the double XP from the first grub that was taken here as well, so that's a nice kind of bonus for him. Lian blowing that ult means that he won't have quite as much potency for the next minute or two should JDG look to start a fight. Again, JDG haven't always been the ones to start the fights. They have been, once Kanavi and Missing have been on Playmaking Champions. Versus top esports, Kanavi and Missing on the Lee Sin Rakan were absolutely sublime. The Nico this time from Missing, harder time with it. Ruler left lane bot side.
Flash just not far enough away from the Fate's call, and Fate is telling Ruler there's nowhere left to run. Will be another kill, this time towards the Kalista on 3-1 and 2. Still a potential win condition.
It's another game where Arn and Wink are doing really good work. Even in the early game last time with the Blitzcrank and the Draven, they had some stuff. IG, I feel like last year, Arn and Wink were maybe some of the pain points of the team. Credit to them for really stepping up when it's counted in 2024 so far, and even punishing the likes of Ruler and Missing. They are one of our best bot lanes in the LPL. I think I hesitate to call them the best now because they have lost so many 2v2s in awkward situations like this and been a bit disconnected from their team. They have that potential, but as you can see, Arn and Wink, no slouches when it comes to punishing them.
Take the nameplates off, and you might have imagined actually it was Ruler Missing on the other side of the rift. Have a look at this one. We get a pro view look at it as well. You see what's going on. Fate's call Flash does all the things they need it to.
So technically flash for flash trade there, but I mean it's not even close in regards to how quickly that was going down. And Ruler, yeah, eats another death in the laning phase. Once he gets himself to something like an Edge of Night, it is harder to make those plays, but on a Wink for now, very, very happy to take the gold where it's given.
Note as well, it'll be the Eclipse build onto the Renekton, which has started to see a little bit more priority, especially in the champions who like to build some of those shields where you want to be a bit more of a threat onto the backline in your 1v1 scenarios. Herald started JDG in the river with the vision control, crying on the back flank though.
YSKM, Sheer, both very powerful for this point in time. YSKM getting shut down right now on the top side.
Sheer tries to flash on forward for the W, puts a lot of damage on the Cryan, who just gets CC'd and kicked in the face. The Fox Girl does not have 9 lives to match the tails, but now the turnaround onto Cryan is good! But in comes the massive Nico ultimate from Missing. It doesn't matter that much at all, because everyone's already damn well dead.
I mean, Yugao just solos out on the bot side of that fight. The Kalista was never a part of it. YSKM couldn't make a big enough impact, as well as JDG steamroll through the top side of this fight. They get themselves Herald. They already have themselves a gold advantage. They can use this Herald to potentially pressure mid lane as soon as this dragon starts spawning in a minute as well. This is an absolute collapse in the early game from Invictus Gaming, who have had some good plays in the bot lane, particularly playing around Arn and Wink. But as soon as multiple members turn up on the same screen here as the Herald, it goes really, really poorly. Want you to watch what happens to Yagao here as well. Didn't really get to see it in the main fight. Just multiple Qs in a row, gets himself his mantra back. And while all this happens, you know, I mean, what is Arn going to do at this point? Gets completely blown up. And basically, IG are playing without an AD carry.
Bailout times out, Yagao flashes on forwards as Missing does the same on the other side to land a massive pot blossom. And this is after Kanavi and Sheer double up to murder Cryan despite the ultimate trying to take the Ahri to safety. Just cannot run far enough away. And the irony, of course, is this time she has the Dark Seal.
Yes, this time a sad point. I mean, at least there are no stacks to lose because there were none on it. So I sit there, you know, drinking myself to sleep, I suppose. I don't know. A little bit.
Dower? You don't even drink!
No, I don't. Well, professional RA players, sometimes it happens that way. And can force the ult away.
Taken down about 20% HP, no teleport either, so dangerous position. Maybe he can look to heal off the wave or try and throw a charm out that is a little bit of a Hail Mary at best anyway.
And this is a huge problem now. You're playing without a mid laner effectively. While Dragon is going down, that's a free soul point for JDG. No real contest even coming in from Invictus Gaming. They don't have a cross map setup. They were hoping for a fight hit. They fail, and this is a very problematic moment for them. JDG, as we said, on this map with the Hex Gates, it feels much harder to lock people out as Wascam stopped on the back, and he's going to die for free.
Into the ward hop kick. There's nothing left to be done. The Volibear, head mounted on the wall.
You should know me. More like, who asked? First game of the Volibear. Really not been an impactful one. Had himself an okay laning phase, I suppose, but now sheer at 2-0 and 2, and this bear on the top lane, as you said, more of a decoration really than a top laner.
Yep, it's been a bit of a rough one, and IG, when it comes to these objective setups, these objective fights, it's been a little mediocre. Frankly, they have been outdone in both games. Maybe a dive on a sheer might be something. I just don't know how easy it'll be to do with a Dominus and full health bar.
And the Eclipse as well.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting. Watch how much damage you do with that one. Nasty as heck. As Crime pushing in that top side, but not really getting much for it. And IG, this was kind of the worry for this team. They've managed to pull out some fantastic games versus top teams, and as we said, they beat BLG as Lien's first game into this roster again, as he replaced Tianzhen coming into this year. It feels like, though, they've just been sloppy in their setup, sloppy in their execution, and as you can see here, Wascam just kind of separated out from the rest of his team as they complete their recalls. Easy as you like. Really feels like a bit of an easy death to give up.
They knew they were there. They were on vision. They saw them clearing the bloody control wall, and he just tried to complete the back and got punished for it. Ryan once again forced a flash down to half HP. This Ahri really struggling to find value, and the turnaround DPS has been very hard for her to manage.
Cryan's jumped in a couple of times now and looked for opportunistic charms. Basically hasn't hit any of them and doesn't have the damage to really capitalize it. All the same. And now we have JDG setting up shop in the mid lane, trying to take down the mid lane out of turret.
Chains of Corruption were hopped away from Faman, so good fancy feat there, but again, it would have been more of a nice additional bonus there than a necessity to hit them. Herald comes charging into the mid lane turret. The hostile takeover, though, is excellent! Lots of damage back, and the reset finally comes on through. Steals a Nico body, but it's a support Nico. She has no HP. Finally, YSKM will start to call forth the storm, but it's immediately grounded. Lightning rods bringing down that one. There's just nothing to be found. No spark left in IG.
And once again, Kanavi's Lee Sin cleaning up shop. Gets himself a couple of really key important Qs there to follow up some more kills. And Invictus Gaming, we have dubbed them the Giant Slayers. They are very far from that moniker themselves in this game. JDG, they are not dealing with this upstart team, trying to keep them away from a potential top 2 berth. They won the battle for top 2 against Top Esports earlier in this week. They would keep on to that if they end up not dropping any more random series here or there. They have been absolutely superb once they've got ahead in this game, though. Wink tries to play this Renata ultimate much in the same way that you do with the Marco ultimate when people over-push into mid lane. It's good, and they get themselves the first reset, but I mean, you've got a raging Renekton in front of you, which is not a happy coincidence, and YSKM jumps forward and he can't get the same value.
Oh, he gets hit with at least 2 mantra Qs across that fight as well. His HP bar just not there for these fights. And in the fact there was no ultimate for Ahri, and it's been very difficult, frankly, for Invictus Gaming to come into fights where they aren't chunked out to a really unhealthy degree. 2 items now complete across the board pretty much for JDG. That's not the case, as far as I saw, for Invictus Gaming.
No, I think they would have to have some very convincing talks with the bank to give them a loan to get towards 2 items at this point, and I don't think they have the credit score for that one. They were very, very far behind in terms of the resources they have access to. And JDG, they have a team composition which it does feel like has a lot of forgiveness in it, with the likes of the Lee Sin, mobility, and then the Karma speeding up the entire team as well. I really feel like JDG, once they've had leads in this split, they have felt they've not necessarily been as fast as a team like FPX, and particularly Top Esports, who are very, very fast. And I think Munchables talks about it at great length, basically saying, look, as soon as they get one fight, the game kind of ends. Even if it's not the most explosive early game, they'll just end at some point. JDG, They feel like they're a little later to find that first fight, and they don't necessarily accelerate the same way, but honestly, once they're in the lead, for me, it never feels in question that they'll win.
Yeah, they are so good with that lead, so respectful and so just ruthless with it, hard to manage.
Responsible is the word I'd use.
Yes, another hostile takeover comes across and forces people away from the turret, but to little avail. Kanavi just steps on forward, forces Wink to be on the wrong end of this. Kanavi will kick Flash, but still in danger now. Doesn't have the safeguard until just now, but has the wall to work with. Dodge on the cube, but on the other side, YSKM forced to ult away, and a flash from Lian as well to get away from the piercing arrow.
And again, it's just the margin of error you can play with. Very forgiving when you're this far ahead with a lot of HP with the Sundered Sky on Kanavi's Lee Sin. IG, they try and turn it around, but they blow flashes, they blow ultimates. The Dragon is now up after you have used those tools. Yes, if you had killed Kanavi, suddenly there'd be no swipe for this Dragon, but you failed to do that, and Kanavi judges his safety more than well enough. That's going to be a free soul over to Jingdong Gaming as Invictus Gaming. They're in a bad spot, Sam. They're in a bad place.
And you have so many ways to proc Hex Soul between the Nico, the Lee Sin Qs, the range of the Varus, and of course the Karma. And this is just Wink getting punished for being jumped on and thrown down.
He's trying to throw out the same ultimate he did under mid lane, and Kanavi says, "Okay, you're looking for that. I can kill you very, very quickly." You know, even with all ult charges expended from Cryan, God, if he got hit by that Q, he probably dies at the end of it too, you know. Really risky stuff. Kanavi's Lee Sin, one of the classics he's been pulling out an awful lot recently, and I feel like sometimes Kanavi has been disconnected from his team. That's been when JDG have looked at their worst in this split, when they've dropped random games, but when he has been on form, particularly on stuff like this Lee Sin and the Jax as well, which has shown some fantastic games on picked up player of the game in game 1, he is one of the very best in the game, and IG, they've really struggled to find an answer.
Wink face checks the whole of JDG, and instead decides to close his eyes a little more permanently. 24 seconds in the death chamber.
See, when you said, like, checks the whole of JDG, it reminded me of that Junji Ito comic, and so this hole, it was meant for me, and he goes into the mountain face.
Oh, the Q goes wide. Kanavi messed that one up, but it's alright, because Shea can flash Slicer Dice. Missing gets a Pop Blossom onto the Volley Bear, and they're skinned as well, and the whole of IG, with the exception of the mid-jungle, looking a little bit sheepish here, crying without an ultimate for what feels like the entirety of the game. Baron has started, and Invictus Gaming, well, they're not feeling very victorious at all.
I think we can question whether the author is Junji Ito himself, but it's definitely a horror book for Invictus Gaming. This manga is not a happy ending for them at all. With a victory today, it would really have put them into a much better standing. Of course, they have to start questioning their seeding at this point too. JDG too, looking to secure themselves closer and closer towards that top 2 finish. Get themselves a Baron, and IG left by the wayside.
Tell what kind of stage the game is in when it's a desperation blind redemption steal attempt from Wink, trying to find out what's going on in the pit. It doesn't work out, unfortunately, for the side of Invictus Gaming, and JDG just continuing to dot their I's and cross their T's, having already got a couple picks in the jungle before this fight began.
And there is such a difference in front
zoom in on it!
Look, folks, we've talked an awful lot of good about Kanavi. That's not one of those moments. As Kanavi, sadly for him, not able to dodge that one. -1, but at least he peels back and lets Sheer do the rest of the work. We've got into a fight again.
Every time Lian Cryan forced to ult backwards away
from
the
roof
yes, missing! Does not miss in this game. Arm with the bailout. But it's the Mantra Q! It's unbelievable! Soul Flare scorches their souls, and once again they're sent to the afterlife.
Ruler with the 3-person piercing arrow shreds the health bars of Invictus Gaming alongside Yagao on the Karma. JDG styling at the end of this game now, teleporting back in, and with 3 dead, with the Baron buff still running, this will be as clean as you like.
Oh, it's Hunting Season YSKM, dead to rights. Ruler picks up another one, and despite the early laning woes, despite our questions about some of the misplays of Ruler missing, it doesn't matter. He's still 8-2-2. He's still an absolute monster, and the rest of the map has run over this game. The first game felt close, but like Invictus Gaming's have ways to work and play this one out, but after the early objective setups went so wrong for Invictus Gaming, this one has felt dead to rights. Ruler pretty low. There are Hex Gates. They're going to teleport behind and try and use this their opportunity to get back in. Ruler's dead.
That's one kill to Ruler. Awkward moment there. Sheer can't save his AD carry. That's one thing. I don't think even with the resets, those can do much else. So sadly for them, it is 1 kill and out. It's not even like they end up blowing Ruler's flash. You didn't have a flash to blow at that point. So IG, it is a consolation kill, but it is really not much more than that. JDG currently at 11-2, move to 12-2. That will put them into a very good position to again secure that top 2 margin at the end of the split. That would put them into effectively the Guardian Angel bracket. They get themselves straight into the back half of the playoffs and get themselves to that double elimination. This play, they're missing. Oh my god, triple root. And then watch what happens after this point. Yagao gets something through, but look at this arrow from Ruler. It's not the Mantra Q which bursts them out like I initially thought. It's actually the arrow which goes through 3 people.
Knavi comes back alive and murders Wink. Arn is dead as well, so clearly within the replay the bot lane was picked off, and it just feels like JDG can act with impunity at this point. Knavi takes another sonic wave resonating strike forwards. Crying once again forced to ult away. Knavi goes into the base, he's still got Sheer to support him, and they can do no wrong. There is absolutely no limit to their plays right now.
Knavi tries to look for the flashy kick knock-up and maybe combo into Ruler. Doesn't need it this time though, Lien. Burning down.
Just about survives to get back to the fountain. A little bit of sustenance, but a fountain of youth is not enough to delay the end of life, perhaps. The game looking like it's all but over. A final inhibitor falls. And Invictus Gaming have only a couple Nexus turrets to their name.
There's no Baron buff, but the Hextech Soul is making it so hard to play. The Sheer goes in.
And what a game he's had. This Renekton being a threat as well. Another pop loss, another bailout, another dead member of Invictus Gaming. They tried for something, but YSKM can only maul futilely. And the backline, as the damage just isn't there. They lose missing, yes. But that's it. The rest of the team falls. JDG put Invictus Gaming to the sword in stylish fashion in Game 2.
The Giant Slayers are slayed, not able to back up their results of Summer 2023 when they took down Jingdong Gaming when they were on that magnificent streak of themselves. And they then will now fall into a bit of a slump here at the back end of the split. It felt like they had a great mid-split, and they will still be very likely to join a lot of other teams in playoffs, but that seeding will be in question. Games like this, losing that can really affect your playoffs aspirations in terms of getting up towards higher and higher brackets as opposed to the other side. JDG, they look like they've effectively guaranteed themselves top 2. The back end of the split doesn't look like they've got a lot of worrying series for them. Of course, strange things happen in LPL. Many a time have we seen a top team fall right at the end of the regular split, but JDG, they are again, just showing again how much of a very professional, disciplined outfit they are. They are very, very good once they get into a gold lead of never really letting go.
And in some ways, they are haunted and living in the shadow of last year's incredible team. They arguably were the greatest mechanical team of all time. There's certainly that argument about how insane they were. They lost one championship. Everything else was there. They got a semi-finals in the World Championship, and people perhaps undersell how good they really were. And now, with some slight shifts to the roster, losing 369, losing Knight, they've come back this year. They're still one of the best teams in the league. They're still looking to live up to that legacy that they kind of built for themselves in 2023.
JDG has had the dominant era of the last kind of years of the LPL, and now as the three-peat LPL champions, they are joined by Martha, who is the three-peat coach of the LCK from Gen G, and suddenly they are looking like, once again, one of our very top teams. It feels like it's time as a flat circle. Suddenly our top 2 teams, once again, feels like BLG and JDG. There is a chance that top esports and FPX can challenge as well. Of course, there's always a chance, and particularly as we come into playoffs, really does serve reminding that often games are very, very different between regular season and playoffs. But still, JDG walk away with a confidence 2-0 to kind of update you guys on the standings with that too as well. Of course, that means that IG now fall to 8 and 6, which means that there is a chance that, well, if if NIP win our next series versus NIG, they get themselves a series buffer between them and Invictus Gaming as well, and potentially lock themselves closer to kind of like the top 4 to top 5 margin as well. There's a chance that maybe that even NIP could lock themselves top 4 as well if FPX drop a series too. It's getting quite close now in regards to like the seeding we're coming into.
Yeah, so because all NIP are on 8 wins right now, they've still got 2 series in hand. So if they win today, and then they've still got that additional series to catch up with someone like FPX. They can still make that run towards the end of the table. Of course, they've been a little bit more fragile, I think, as of late. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Of course, it'll be a bit of a litmus test coming up against RNG, which should be pretty heavily NIP favoured, but we'll still wait and see. See the DPM numbers here, and Yagao and Ruler. Yagao in particular on that Karma throwing out consistently huge amounts of DPS.
And this is kind of a big thing for Yagao. I think the one criticism which a lot of people have had about him is actually, look, he's not going to be your DPS dealer. He's going to be the guy that's engaging at the right time and making the clutch plays at the right time. But, you know, don't expect him to do the damage. He absolutely mashed it out here. I guess we'll find out who gets player of the game later. I wonder if it's Kanavi. It could be missing as well, but he had some awkward moments in lane. I think there's a couple of good options here, actually. And he's probably not Sheer or Ruler. I feel like they had quieter games. I feel like Sheer was robbed from game 1, sadly. But yeah.
I think Yagao, for me, probably is